Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So, in this video, we're going to learn how to configure odd standby router protocol, or in short, HSRP. Okay. So, before we go deep into this, I will open our Google spreadsheet and let you know that we are in number 14 under routing technologies, part 1. Okay. All right. So without doing further ado, let's understand what HSRP means. So I will use this diagram that I drew. Okay. All right. So let's assume that site A want to access site B. Okay, and it must pass through these two routers, right? Then finally to this router, and finally it's on site B. Okay. So let's assume that we want a situation whereby when one router goes down, okay, another path will be used. So let's assume primarily our traffic is going through the first route, okay, to site B. Then when the first router goes down or this link is cut off, right, all the traffic will be redirected to pass through this router here. So what HSRP means is that this is a layer 3 redundancy protocol, and it's a Cisco proprietary that is used to create redundancy in the network at the layer 3 level. Okay, it's a Cisco proprietary protocol, mainly used for Cisco products. So how does HSRP work? Well, HSRP works based on the concept of the virtual router. We have the virtual router, we have the active router, and the standby router. So the active router is the main router through which all the traffic is forwarded to. The backup router or the standby router is that router that acts as the secondary path when the active router fails. But what about the virtual router? The virtual router is now the default gateway of the inside LAN of this LAN here. That's how we call it the virtual router. And we need to specify it on both the routers so that the routers can know that they share the same virtual router. Okay? All right. And so I will open our Google, our notepad to highlight the steps that we're going to follow to achieve the objective. All right. So configuring HSRP on router. The first step, draw the necessary topology, decorate, and comment. As you can see, guys, I drew this topology consisting of 3 routers, 1 multi-layer switch, and 2 access layer switches. I've used 3650 multi-layer switch. I've used 3650 multi-layer switch, okay, 2911 router, and 2960 access switches. So I just wanted to have a 3-tier network topology where we consist of the core layer, okay, distribution layer, and the access layer. So in the core layer, I wanted to have redundancy, and to create redundancy, we had to include a protocol, which is HSRP. All right. So we are going to implement redundancy for site A. Okay, we want a situation whereby site A access site B through 2 paths. Whenever one path fails, the second path picks up, right? All right. So the second step is to configure IP address to the routers and specify HSRP parameters on the 2 routers. Okay. So we need to configure IP address to the routers and specify HSRP parameters on the routers. Okay. All right. So the first thing that I'll do, I'll just configure IP address on this side only first, because on this side we have to include HSRP parameters. So on this side we just configure IP address only. We don't include HSRP parameters. Okay. So I have to identify this interface with gig 00, and this one is also gig 00. So gig 00 on this side will take 10 10 10 1, gig 00 on this side will take 10 10 10 5, and this one is gig 00, gig 10 10 10 10 2, This is gig 01, 10, 10, 10, 10, 6. And this is gig 02. We'll take 1 and 2, 168, 20.1. Okay? Alright, so I'll do it very, very fast to save time. Alright, so guys, I've configured IP address for the router's interfaces on the right side. But on the left side, you don't need to touch it now because we're going to include HSRP parameters. Okay? So I've configured IP address to only this side only. Okay? Only this side, I mean. Okay? Alright, so let's do the same for the hosts. Okay, let's finalize host IP address on this head too. Okay, alright, so I just do it very, very fast, save time. And alright, so that's done. So let's return to this side. So this is the main discussion of today's class, HSRP. We need to configure IP address to this interface and this interface, and also this computer. So I will explain something small. Remember, this interface, and this LAN all belong to this network. So how are we going to configure it? We need to include IP address to this interface, and include HSRP parameters. So let me show you how to do it. Before that, you have to make sure that you turn the multi-layer switch on. Remember, it's always in shutdown. I mean, it's always turned off by default. Okay, it has no power supply. So just click it and drag the AC power supply to the empty slot and close it. Right? Okay. So we need to configure this interface and this interface with the IP address and include the HSRP parameters. So among the HSRP parameters that we're going to include is the virtual router. Remember I said that this interface and this interface, they will share the same virtual router. Okay, so we have to make this interface the primary path, because you can see it's here, virtual router. This interface, the secondary path, standby router. Okay, all right, so I click here, I just see which interface this is, gig 01. So when I click on the router, I come to gig 01. I just come here and say interface gig 01. Interface gig 01. The first thing that we do, we assign it IP address. But remember, I have already did a comment here that our virtual router will have IP address of 10.1. So this one can take from 10.2, 10.3. But during HSRP configuration, you have to make sure that the active router takes the highest IP address than the standby router. So in this scenario, 10.1 has been taken by the virtual router. Let the virtual router come in the first IP address. Okay, with that will act as the default gateway for this site. So let's say the virtual router has taken this one. So being that this is the active router, it should take higher than the standby router. Okay, or so we just say IP address to be 192.168.10.3. okay, such that this one will take 10.2. okay, then IP subnet pass of 255.255.255.0. okay, you hit enter. Okay, and you can see it's down. Let's say no, that will say later. Then now this is where you include HSRP parameters. The first thing that we do, we create what's called HSRP group. Okay, so we can just say, how do we create a HSRP group? We can say standby, just say standby, then you give a group number. You can say, let's say this is a group number 30, something like that. Okay, right? Then after giving a group number, or you can just say standby, then you try to query. Okay, then you can see group number, you can give a group from 0 to 1495. So in this case, we can use 7 group, let's use group 5. Okay, then just query again. What's next? After you query, this is what is included. You can give the priority level, you can give the preempt or the IP, or the IP that will represent the virtual router's IP. So we just say standby 5, the group number 5, then we give the priority to be, let's query. You see, you can give a value between 0 to 255. So remember, the router with the highest IP address and the router with the highest priority is the one that becomes the active router. So in this case, I'm going just to give a standard priority, which is always 100 for this router, okay? Then you hit enter. The first step, give IP address. The second step, give the priority, give the group number and the priority level. The third step is now where you include the virtual router. So just say standby 5 still, IP address to be IP address of the virtual router, which is 192.168.10.1. You hit enter, then no shut, because you can see it shut down. So just say no shut and do right. That's all about HSRP. So let's learn it more on the second router. Just click on the second router and first I identify which interface. This is gig 01. So when we go here, enable config T interface gig 0/1. The first thing, we assign it IP address. And remember, we said that it's only the active router that we assign with the highest IP address with the highest priority, standby priority. Okay, so let's say hey, IP address 192.168.10.2, because this one was 10.3 active router. Now standby router be 10.2, 255.255.255.0, and you hit enter. The second step, you give the group number. The group number should be the same here. Okay, standby group number. Just say standby 5. Our group number was 5. Then what do you do now? You give the priority. Remember, the priority here was 100. So the router with the highest priority becomes the active router, the main path. So let's make this one priority of 90 so that it becomes the secondary path, and you just hit enter. Then the last step is to specify the virtual router. I just say standby IP to be 102, standby 5, sorry, you have to include the group number. Standby 5 IP to be 192.168.10.1, and you hit enter, exit, and you do right. All right, so I forgot to turn this interface up, so we just go there and turn it up. No shut, and do right, exit. So let's just give it some time and test if HSRP has been formed between this router and this router. Okay guys, so finally this interface has turned up, and you can see the state was changing from standby to active, then finally to standby. So if you can just verify and just say show standby query, standby, yeah, brief. That's all. You can see that gig 01 group 5 with priority of 90, its state of standby. Okay, and the active router is 10.3, which is the IP address of this router, and our virtual router is 10.1. Very simple. So what do? Let's go to these computers and configure IP addresses. So when I go here, there's something that I want to explain. You just configure IP address 192.168.10.10. Okay, all right. Then when it comes to default gateway, you give the IP address of the virtual router. We didn't configure the virtual router, but it's specified. We assume that it's there. So we just configure the IP address of the virtual router. Remember, this one is 10.3. This is 10.2. And our virtual router is 10.1. So we give the virtual router as the default gateway. Okay? Alright. So when you go here again, we do the same. That's all. That's all about HSRP. So when I go back to a notepad, you can see configure IP address to the host to make site A LAN to use virtual router as the default gateway. I've just done that. Then finally, configure OSPF to advertise routes. So guys, let's do OSPF very fast. Remember, this router is going to advertise how many networks? This one and this one. This one is going to advertise this one and this one. And this one is going to advertise 3. This one, and this one. So let's do it very fast to save time. Start with this one. And do right. So if you can just say do show IP OSPF neighbors. You can see they have two neighbors, 1.1.1 and 2.2.2, and the state is full DR, okay? All right. So when you go back to a notepad, ping and trace route from A to B. So I'm going to ping this PC, which was 20.10. So let's ping 20.10. Ping trace 192.168.20.10. So you see the paths. The first path is the active router. It goes through the active router. This IP address. Okay. All right. So when you go back to our notepad, disconnect link through the active router and ping again. So I'm going to disconnect this link. Intentionally, I'm just going to disconnect that link. Yes. So let's go to the same router and try to ping again. So you can see it's pinging successfully. The first time I tried to ping, it failed. Maybe it was still establishing paths. So the second time I tried to ping, it went successful. Okay. So let's try to trace route again. So to trace route. So you see, it's going through 10.2. The first time you could see it was going through 10.3 because that was the primary path. Now that the primary path failed, it has to go through 10.2, which is our backup path. So I'll connect this router, I'll connect the link again and wait until it turns green, then try to do the same. So let's just give it some time. Okay, now the link is up. Let's go to the same computer and try to ping again. See, it's now going through 10.3. Initially it was 10.2. So basically guys, we've achieved redundancy in our network at the layer 3 level through the configuration of odd standby router protocol. So that's all about this video, and when we meet next, we're going to handle a very important topic, HSRP with multiple VLANs. Very important. So thank you so much guys. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, share with friends, and let's see you again in the next video. Bye.